up, guys? I know I am late with my review of the latest chapter, but I've been working very hard on a video that is about to premiere on Paul Rising Fist's channel. It is the continuation of Vegeta's visit to Planet Sadala. There's going to be some really cool stuff happening in that video, so please go and check out that video. I worked really hard on it all week, and that's the reason I'm late. So would really greatly appreciate if you would go check that out. But without any further ado, today I'm going to be reviewing Dragon Ball Super Chapter 89, Arrival Appears. Now, first off, the first thing I want to say is that if this chapter did anything, it established to me where exactly Toriyama and Toyotaro chose to draw inspiration for this arc, and that is definitely from Power Rangers. Now, there is some Sentai stuff. Japanese, Power Rangers stems from Sentai, which is a Japanese form of entertainment, and this I have noticed though takes much more from Western tropes in terms of, not that they've never used these tropes in Sentai, but this feels much more like they decided to borrow from Western media in terms of their influence, despite the fact that Sentai is a Japanese show. This feels a lot to me like that Toriyama and Toyotaro are also a fan of the Western equivalent of Sentai material, Power Rangers. So I just thought that was very neat. I just wanted to point that out. That is really the takeaway of this chapter for me, is that I've realized that this is very heavily Power Rangers themed and inspired in Sentai. So this chapter starts with Trunks uploading the data that he got from Dr. Hedo to his mother's computer at the very start of the chapter. And that's when we find out that it is, in fact, Cell's blueprints that are on the disc. Now, Trunks has no idea what Cell's blueprints are, and this could go one of two ways. Either Hedo is not going to successfully steal this data from Capsule Corp, or the arc is over, or the Red Ribbon Army will after he's gone to jail. I don't think that Capsule Corporation or Bulma or anybody like that is going to do anything with this data, although that would be interesting. I'm not sure that that's where this is going. That would be pretty cool if it is, if that is where it goes, but we'll see. Another thing is, like, even Cell's appearance in this chapter feels like something you would see in like Sentai or Power Rangers. Like the fact that there's like a monster that like there's the blueprints for a monster that exists on a disc. Like, that seems like something you would see in traditional Japanese Sentai or Power Rangers. So I thought that was very interesting how they managed to take Cell and spin him in a way in this chapter to make him fit the aesthetic that they're going for. So whenever Trunks successfully taps into the data, a computer virus pops up all over the computer. Trunks was smart enough to tap into the data, but in terms of fixing this computer virus, he has no idea what he's doing. And it's really funny because we get to see Bola. Of course, she's much like her mother. She is a super genius, so she fixes the computer right away. Now, one thing I've noticed particularly about this arc is that Bulma's influence on everyone is highlighted a lot. Her influence on Trunks, her influence on Brawl. Trunks, at the very least, shows character traits that are very, very, very similar to Bulma in this chapter. When Trunks takes Mai to school, everybody is, of course, very impressed with the fact that she works at Capsule Corporation. She seems very adult. She's very polite. Then we get introduced to the new kid. Now, this is Beta, the new android that Dr. Hedo has constructed, and as you could probably see from the thumbnail, this reminded me a lot of the trope from Power Rangers where Tommy shows up, the Green Ranger, and he is the new kid, and he is just as powerful as the hero of the story and becomes sort of his rival in the school. So this is another one of those tropes that they're playing on. And immediately Trunks gets very competitive whenever he not only has Mai there to impress, but also Beta to surpass. Beta has the capabilities to make him look less cool than he was before, because before, him and Trunks and Goten were the only one that had superpowers and they were best friends. Now there's a new kid who's shown up, and he also has special abilities, and that actually causes Trunks to slip up in this chapter. And right after that, it's revealed to us that, of course, Beta has a camera in his eye, so the entire point of Beta's existence is to spy on Trunks and Goten, or whoever could possibly be the person that stole the disc from this school. Now, this is also very, very, very Power Rangers-esque / Sentai esque material. him using the camera to spy on them is very similar to what you in Power Rangers and in Sentai Material. They're constantly cutting back and forth between the villains watching the good guys. So this and also the way that Dr. Hedo has all of these minions around who are kind of comedic. They're comedic in comparison to, you know, your stereotypical Dragon Ball villains, and they're not very intelligent. That's also something that like you would see out of Power Rangers or out of Sentai Material. Right here, Bulma's influence on Mai is shown. She notices right away that more than likely Beta is an android, and she's just all about business. She's very adult. She's all about business. She's not in this for childish games. She's very intelligent, and she's very intuitive, and she's very good at figuring things out. Now, one thing I noticed as this chapter unfolded is that Trunks and Mai have a very similar dynamic to Bulma and Vegeta. And what I mean by that is Mai is kind of cold and standoffish like Vegeta, and Trunks is very, you know, he's expressive. Like it's very obvious that he has feelings for Mai. So I noticed that when I was reading that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and that might have something to do with why they're trying to make these two a couple. And, you know, Mai is an ex-military agent, so I can kind of see what they're trying to do here. But as the chapter unfolds, Beta keeps trying to pick on Trunks and do stuff to him to, you know, test as to whether or not he is a superhuman, and it keeps backfiring on him. And this reminds me of like the Spider-Man bullying scenes that we've seen throughout various Spider-Man films, and it also reminds me of like a lot of the bullying scenes in Power Rangers and Sentai Material, especially the scene with the food. That reminded me a lot of the Tobey Maguire era of Spider-Man. Whenever, you know, you have that scene in the cafeteria. But anyway, Beta is, of course, much more intelligent than Trunks in terms of what he knows, which is to basically explain to us that Beta is a more intelligent form of android than the androids that he has sitting with him watching all this unfold, because those androids actually express that they are not very intelligent. So Beta is new and improved. He is a tier above the rest of the androids that Dr. Hedo created. So he must have put some of his own genius into the androids, essentially what I'm getting at. So then we get this really cool nod at, I don't know if you remember, but that commercial break scene whenever Goten was holding up the car. We get a cool little nod at that because Goten picks up a car. And he does it without thinking. He doesn't mean to like expose the fact that he has powers. He just does it without thinking. And that causes Beta to notice that he's the one that has superpowers. So Beta becomes Beta 1, the superhero, which is kind of silly because he literally just told the school that his name was Beta. So I don't know, I just think that's funny. But so this also feeds into what I was saying about this being very Power Rangers-esque, and because of course he is also a superhero like Saiyaman X1 and X2. So again, they keep pulling from these Power Rangers-esque tropes, and Beta apparently is very strong because he can hang with Goten, at least Goten in his base. So Trunks steps in and prevents Goten from basically having to deal with the situation on his own, because he was very, very close to exposing himself due to the need to fight back against Beta 1. And so Saiyaman X1 sort of like saves him there. So Saiyaman X1 hands his morphing watch to Goten so he can become Saiyaman X2 behind closed doors. And then the fight between Beta 1 and Saiyaman X1 unfolds. And here we get some heavy high school aesthetics because they fight in a football field. And Hedo is like freaking out over how cool Saiyaman X1 is. So it's very interesting the dynamic that's being created here between Hedo, Trunks, and Goten. That this actually could add to the future of Dragon Ball if Dr. Hedo ever does find out after Dragon Ball Super that Goten and Trunks are in fact Saiyaman X1 and X2. That could create a very interesting dynamic in terms of their relationship. So then we get this nod at the Red Ribbon robots and the Pilaf Gang robots through Beta number 2. And there's a lot of scenes that are very reminiscent of stuff you see in Dragon Ball. For example, Trunks throwing the rocket back at the robot is a direct homage to whenever Goku did the same thing in the original Dragon Ball. And then you've also got Beta 2 grabbing up Mai in a similar fashion to Mai grabbing up Goku in the original Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball does this a lot, where there's like karmic panels, is what I call them, where like they're panels that are supposed to be ironic and a play on like a cycle that unfolds within Dragon Ball. So Beta 1, the whole reason he grabs up Mai is because he sees that she has the disc. Saiyaman X1 saves the day with his signature attack, Steam Cleaner High Pressure, which it doesn't kill Beta, but it does like destroy the machine that he's in and his costume, which I thought was really funny. I think that suggests that they're going to make him a better costume. So after this is all over, there's this really interesting scene where Trunks almost reveals to Mai that he is in fact Saiyaman X1. This reminds me of the dynamic between Goku and Krillin whenever they first went to go train under Roshi, and Roshi said that, you know, doing things to get girls was impure. So not only does this dynamic between Mai and Trunks remind me a lot of Vegeta and Bulma, the dynamic between Goten and Trunks in terms of their motivations being pure and impure reminds me a lot of Krillin and Goku. So the way that this is set up is actually, it's pretty well thought out in terms of like creating an intricate web of concepts that have existed prior in the series and using them in a creative way that is entertaining. This is the way that they're pulling that off in this chapter in particular is pretty impressive. But essentially, the chapter ends off with Hedo basically saying that now that he's studied Saiyaman X1 and X2, he's going to create his next android. And Beta is still alive, which tells me that he's probably going to be a recurring character, probably with a better costume, I'd say, next time, since Hedo was insulting his costume. But this whole dynamic with Dr. Hedo creating, you know, different androids to throw at Saiyaman X1 and X2 is also very, very, very reminiscent of stuff that you would see in Power Rangers and Sentai. So this whole thing is this is literally Dragon Ball X Power Rangers. That's what this is, or Dragon Ball X Sentai. Like, it's even more like Power Rangers or Sentai than the Saiyaman stuff. Like, they're really taking from it heavily in this case. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching the video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.